Good morning and welcome to Thomcast episode 3. I am Tom, president and dictator for life of 515comics.com, and thanks for watching. So on today's episode, I want to talk a little bit about the year 2012. Because it's December, it's the end of the year, it's time to reflect on things that we've learned and not learned, and done and not done in the year, you know. Also, I started a vlog so that I could record working on a new book. And I'm probably not going to start working on a book until next year. So I got a couple weeks to fill up with other things. So, specifically what I want to talk to you guys about is conventions. I've learned a lot about going to conventions from going to conventions this year. It's the first year that 515 Comics has actually had a table at a convention, and we did it 4 times. We went to 4 conventions. We went to the Spring Con in Minneapolis. We went to Project Comic Con in St. Louis, Missouri, and then we did the 2 comic conventions that I know of in Iowa, Anime Iowa and the Icon put on by the Iowa Comic Book Club here in Des Moines. And it was great. It was a lot of fun, and I've learned so much in going to those 4 conventions about what I want to do for the future. Now, at the start of the year and in years previous, I guess I'd always thought that going to conventions was something that you did when your comic was already really popular. You go to conventions to meet fans of your comic, not to make fans of your comic. And I realized that, last year and the start of this year, that's not necessarily the case. I mean, obviously that would be great to go and just meet people who already love me. But not a lot of people know me yet. And so it seems like going to conventions is actually a really good way to introduce yourself to the comic reading public. Go figure, right? I don't know why I thought that was the wrong way to do it for a really long time. But anyway, that's why I've been doing a comic for like 6 years, and this is my first year of going to conventions. Also, it was the first year of going to conventions because it was the first year that I felt I really had anything to sell. You know, it's one thing to go to conventions and just get your name out there, which, believe me, is most of what we did. But it was definitely nice to also have something to put on the table of like, here's a legitimate item that is for purchase that you could buy with money. Like, I just feel like if we'd gone and just had like printouts of comic pages or something and said, hey, go check out this comic, it would have been a little weird. So actually having something there to show helped a lot and made me want to do it, I think, ultimately. So at the conventions we were selling, obviously, the Nextus Volume 1 graphic novel, and also at the start of the year in the springtime, I put together a little mini comic of Nextus to sell, so that there'd be something for just a couple bucks that people could buy, so that maybe it's like, maybe it's only a couple bucks, maybe I'll check it out. And of course we had a slew of stickers and buttons that we were just giving out to people, kind of get the word out, spread the name, so that people maybe will remember us next year if we go to some of the same conventions. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. So one of the main things that I learned going to these conventions, I mean, they were all comic conventions, apart from Anime Iowa, which was kind of a completely different beast. But for the most part, comic conventions, I feel I've learned a little bit about what most people going to comic conventions want. And it's not necessarily that they don't want what I'm offering, but I think primarily what most people do want at these comic conventions are to see what the vendors are selling, what all of the local comic shops are bringing, and meet the names that get attracted to these. You know, like usually there's always a couple people that are in the mainstream comic industry or have been in the industry, and they want to, people want to come and meet those guys, have them sign stuff for them, talk to them about the characters and stories that they've created, and that's really cool, and I totally get that. And, again, it's like, well, Tom, that's pretty obvious that people would want to do that stuff at a comic book convention. But I just didn't know. And so it was interesting to see, the different kinds of artists and vendors that were really successful at these conventions. And unfortunately, I'm not really one of them. But the thing is that a lot of artists that have booths at these comic conventions, it seems a lot of them, there were a lot of people that had their own original content. And there were a lot of people who were just there basically drawing like fan art and very talented, amazing artists that were just there doing commissions and selling prints of art that they have done, which is cool. And I mean, I think at first it kind of upset me that it's like, oh man, these people who are just selling other people's drawings are doing like way better than me, and all my stuff's original. Why don't people want my original stuff? Well, again, it's the kind of person that's going to a comic convention. They want the stuff from mainstream comics because that's what they know and that's what they like. And yeah, they're willing to pay artists to draw some of their favorite characters for them because then I've got this original piece of this character that I really like, and that's awesome. And there's no other one like it, or it's a print, and so there's a bunch of other ones like it, but it's still unique to me. Yay, whatever. So I get that, and I think at first I was a little upset by it, but now I kind of have a respect for it. It's not something I think I want to do. But I do understand it a little bit better now. And so, does that mean, are there any conventions for people like me, for people who are just selling unique content? Truthfully, there are some people who come to these conventions, the ones that I went to, that will want to look for that unique stuff and new stories and characters and art and all that. But that's not the primary draw, and that's why the people drawing the mainstream stuff and selling the mainstream stuff do so well. And hopefully there are some conventions for me, and hopefully I will be able to go to some of them someday soon. There are a few that I've heard about that I want to hit up this next year that I think are a little bit bigger, and so might have more of a draw for people looking for the more independent and unique new stuff. So hopefully that will go well. And someday I'd really love to make it to the coasts or wherever it is that they actually have webcomic conventions. I've always considered myself a webcomic guy more than a comic guy. Even though I've got a print comic now, it's, Nextus is a webcomic. And so going to a comic book convention, I am still a little out of my element, I think. But I am really excited about all the things that I learned, and I think that next year is going to be great. And I think that it can only get better, because people will come back to conventions that I've already been to and recognize me, and maybe give me a second look. And honestly, I mean, I don't want it to, I feel like I've been saying that it's like, oh, I did really terribly. Man, I didn't sell anything. But I did pretty good, I think. Like, I don't have anything to compare it to. Because nobody else has ever tried to go out and sell a bunch of next to stuff. Ever. So, I feel like I did pretty good. And again, I feel like I learned enough that next year is going to be even better. And I'm really excited about it. So, let me look at my notes here. So yeah, one thing that I'm really excited about for next year is again going to a few of these larger conventions if I can get into them, and hopefully there will be a larger population of people who are just looking for the new stories, the unique art, the kind of independent element that comes to the comic conventions, and hopefully I'll just meet a lot more really cool people. And we met some really cool people this year. It has been so much fun. And again, that's another thing, is that even if I didn't sell anything, if I didn't sell a single thing at any of these conventions, it still would have been worth it to me, because I got to meet all sorts of cool people who are trying to do the same thing that I'm doing and learn from them. That's invaluable. And I got to meet a lot of really cool people who stopped and talked to me at the booth. just talking about comics, talking about my comic, talking about comics they like, talking about conventions in general. You know, I've never been much of a social person. I don't really like being in a big social situation where I got to talk to a bunch of strangers. But forcing myself to do it in the convention setting, I think has really helped me grow a lot in that regard, and I really found myself enjoying it, meeting new people, making some new friends. You know, it was really cool, and I'm really excited to do it all over again. And I might even do more conventions than 4 next year. We'll see. I mean, some of them will take a bit of travel, but I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try and do at least as many, if not more, this next year. So I'll be talking about that as I actually sign up for them, which I should probably be doing like now. But anyway, I think I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this up. I don't know if there's anything else I wanted to talk about conventions. So thanks very much for watching this episode of Thomcast, and I will see you guys later. Bye. Let's do this. Wolverines!